Hello and welcome everyone. I'm here with Kamran Bokhari, who's a senior director at the New Lines Institute in Washington D.C. And we are going to talk about the rapidly changing and rather worrying situation on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, where clashes have been reported for more than 2 days now, with the claims and counterclaims of casualties. Pakistan's military says that at least 23 Pakistani soldiers have died in these clashes, while more than 200 Afghan fighters have died, while the Afghan authorities are claiming that more casualties on Pakistani side have been reported. How did this happen, and how dangerous is this for the region, for South Asia, West Asia, and the world, given that there's a long history of terrorism emanating from this region and affecting the rest of the world, but also the fact that Pakistan has been embroiled in a conflict with its large neighbor India, and both are nuclear armed nations. And I will be asking all these questions from Kamran. Welcome, Kamran, and thank you for your time. Very quickly, where do you see this conflict at the Pakistan Afghanistan border heading? Is it going to continue and get more complex, or will there be a diplomatic solution or ending to it?
Thank you for having me, Raza. Look, it's not about to end anytime soon. This is just warming up. But this is something I had predicted, as far back as December 2022 in a piece that I wrote for Geopolitical Futures, in which I said that the interests of the new Afghan Taliban regime and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan diverge sharply. And I laid out the reasons for why they are heading towards a fight. And now, I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened, but this is the most severe conflict,
Yeah.
fighting that we've seen on the Afghan-Pakistani border since the return of the Taliban regime.
Hmm.
So look, I'm not surprised, and nobody else should be. But this does underscore a complete collapse, or a complete, if you will, you
Breakdown
know,
of.
it's not just a breakdown. It shows that Pakistan's policies towards Afghanistan for the last half a century it was such a massive
Hmm.
miscalculation, and I think
Right.
that Pakistan is going to have to do a lot of work to turn this thing around. And this is just the beginning.
Right.
Pakistan can't fight this on its own soil. That much is clear. This is something I'd said 3 years ago, and I came in one of your shows in early 2023 saying that this will require a buffer zone on the Afghan side of the border. Now, that's where we're headed, because you can't mow the lawn and come back home and then go back and mow the lawn again. You can
Yeah.
do that only so many times before you realize that this is a problem that requires a different level of involvement. And so I think that that's where we're headed. Clearly, this is against Chinese interests. Clearly, this is against American interests. Uh, and of course, this comes in the backdrop of a time where Pakistan is facing a very sensitive eastern border with India in the wake of the 87-hour war that happened back in May. And it's not a coincidence that the Taliban regime's foreign minister,
Hmm.
Amir Khan Muttaqi, is visiting India while these clashes are going on. So, coincidences exist
Yeah.
to the extent that you believe in them. And then, this is something that is strategic. It's not just one border for Pakistan. This is a strategic issue because this is sort of that, eternal nightmare scenario that the Pakistanis have been sort of dealing with, of the fear of encirclement. And
Fear of
so,
experiment.
and,
Exactly.
and so I think this will require Pakistan to basically bring to the table, or bring to bear all its alliances, all its allies, whether they're in the Gulf, whether it's Turkey, whether it's the Central Asians, the Americans, the Chinese, and it'll also require a conversation with the Russians, who seem to be very chummy chummy with the Taliban.
Yeah. So Pakistan, as you know, claims that Afghanistan has been supporting and giving space to the Pakistani branch of Taliban and the insurgents in, from Balochistan, the Pakistani province of Balochistan, which has had a very violent insurgency going on for almost 20 years now. But Kamran, do you think that with this pressure on Afghan Taliban and the attacks that Pakistan is launching, given Pakistan has superiority both in terms of air force and standing army, would the Afghan Taliban back off?
Look, they will tactically back off
Okay.
when they'll, in the face of overwhelming odds. I mean, this is something that the Taliban are very familiar with. This is what they did when the United States brought in overwhelming air power in the fall of 2001 after the 9/11 attacks. They didn't stand and fight.
Hmm. Yeah.
They went away only to come back and fight another day. I think it's going to be the same thing here. They'll pull back, they'll rein in their TTP cousins, and they'll try to extract concessions from not just the Pakistanis, but more so importantly, the Chinese, who
Hmm.
have sort of refused to essentially invest in that country because they don't like the circumstances there. So they will do that. But does that mean that the war is over and things will go back to normal? No, I don't think so. I think this is a very long term problem. We could easily be talking about this 10 years from now.
Okay, this is interesting, and which basically means there are no shortcut solutions. And so, anyway, I'll come back to what needs to be done. I just have another quick question. The Afghan Taliban have also are in the process of mending their relations with India. India had huge reservations against the Taliban. Its official position was really, in fact, Indian popular media has been churning out anti-Taliban material for decades, and now the Taliban foreign minister has been given a red carpet treatment in New Delhi and Agra and elsewhere. So, how deeper can this connection be? Go further, or is it just to target Pakistan or isolate Pakistan in the region? What's going on with this new budding friendship?
Look, from an Indian strategic point of view, um, you can't, go back and do what operations endure again.
Hmm.
Okay, if the need arises. And in order to, it's in India's interest that, I mean, if you think about it sort of logically, from an Indian point of view, if Pakistan is so focused on the western border, then the chances of it acting against India in Kashmir or elsewhere uh, is limited.
Hmm.
And Pakistan is tied down. So I think that this works, and I just don't see that this new budding relationship with the Taliban regime is anything but Pakistan specific, because this is not going to help them with Central Asia. Because for that they have to figure out the Pakistani part, or at least figure out the Iranian part, which again is not in their control. It's subject to how the United States and the Iranians deal with one another, and then the Indians can go in and redevelop the whole Chabahar thing, the port, and then the transportation corridor through Iran to Central Asia. And so Afghanistan doesn't offer India much. Okay, if anything, the Taliban will need stuff from the Indians as opposed to the other way around.
Hmm.
So this is a low cost way of tying up Pakistan on its western frontier.
Yeah. So many people in Pakistan are concerned that with this, hot western border where Pakistan's military is engaged, and full scale, at least for the past few days, and we don't know what happens in the future, that, India could take advantage and attack Pakistan again. I mean, you just said that it may not, but I've been reading and talking to people who say that this is a real possibility. Do you agree with this assessment?
I don't think so. I think that the 87-hour war that happened because of Operation Sindoor launched by India
Hmm.
in response to the Pahalgam attack really undermined the relationship with the United States.
Hmm.
So, and it's not something that the Chinese look at and say, "Oh, this is great." They actually, this is against the Chinese interest. So, if you're in from an Indian point of view, again, you do not want to upset the United States and the Chinese at the same time. And so I don't think that that is happening. And why should they have to do anything themselves? It's too costly. Okay, if the Pakistanis are, being given a bloody nose by the Afghan Taliban through the TFTP, that serves the Indian purpose of keeping the Pakistanis tied up. It's a much lower cost way of achieving the whatever objectives that the Indians have vis-a-vis Pakistan.
Right, right. So my final question, Kamran, is how worried should the Americans be about this changing scenario, given the fact that the U.S. has certain long term, and historically the U.S. has been engaged in the region. So if this thing gets out of hand, it will have ramifications for global and regional security. So, your quick response to that?
I would say this is of immense concern for the United States because, look, this president is trying to end conflict.
Hmm.
He tried to, succeeded in, you know, stopping the India-Pakistan conflict in its tracks and did not deteriorate further, thankfully. And he's trying to bring the war in the Middle East or the wars in the Middle East to an end. And he doesn't need this. The president of the United States does not need this. In fact, it goes against everything. Uh, this administration needs Pakistan to help with the Middle East issue. The Saudis need Pakistan to help them in their regional security issues. If a Pakistan that's tied up with India and the Afghan Taliban at the same time is not going to be of much help to anybody. And so this is in the American interest to make sure that this thing is stopped. And so let's see the level of involvement that we get from the Trump White House. I just don't see them sitting, around and saying, "Well, this is not our problem." They definitely are looking at this and saying, "This is not good."
Right, right. Thank you, Kamran, for your time. And we'll continue this conversation. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you. Goodbye.